Good morning, everybody, and welcome to TLC. As every Wednesday, I'm Andrea Gomez.
And I'm Orlando Sanchez.
¿Cómo estás, Orlando?
Muy bien, gracias. ¿Y tú?
Very, very, very good. So this week we started with early voting for the runoff, and we have two candidates that we're going to profile today. They already been in our show, so we're going to, present again the recorded interview that we have with them, because we try to have them live in our show, but as we know, they are just in the last few days before the elections day, so of course they're super busy. So we're trying to push them again, for you guys to go and vote. Still early voting. It started Monday, and we're still in this week early voting, but the runoff elections is going to be May 24. So we want you guys to go on an early voting. I always love to go in early voting because it's no lines, it's so easy, and you go as your earliest convenience. So today we're going to have Mano DeAyala and also Vidal Martinez.
And I would also mention they're both of our endorsed candidates, so that's why we want to feature them again and remind voters that these folks have worked very hard throughout the course of the year and into last year, at the end of last year. So they merit your support. They merit you looking at them. They merit you picking up the phone and calling a couple of neighbors and taking them to the polls, and go early vote for both Vidal Martinez and Mano DeAyala. Mano is running for House District 133 on the west side of Houston and Harris County, and Vidal Martinez is running for Harris County Judge to defeat Lena Hidalgo in the November general election.
So let's get to know Vidal Martinez and Mano DeAyala on the already record interview that we did a couple of weeks ago. Get to know them, their platform, and their issues. And please go and vote. It's very important. Here we go. Well, Vidal Martinez, welcome to TLC. And so far as the early voting and preliminary counting, you're going to the runoff.
That's correct. It appears that 206 precincts have been counted, and me and one other person got over 50% of the vote. So we expect that to hold as the rest of the count comes in.
Yeah, that's probably going to be the trend.
As you said, it's a disaster. The election results should have been by 10 o'clock news last night, and it just didn't happen.
No, I feel sometimes like I'm living in a, Caribbean banana republic. We might get the election results next week. I mean, it's just unacceptable. But nonetheless, I think you're right. I think the numbers will hold. So I want to congratulate you, because obviously you are our endorsed candidate. And so the runoff is going to be when, Vidal? When are they scheduling that?
The runoff is almost 3 months away, on May 24th. I think there's going to be some legislation in the next legislative session to shorten the time period for a runoff. But we're following the federal calendar. And so May 24th is a runoff. So just short of 1 week, 3 months away.
So were you surprised at the election results? Because, there was was it Dixon? Lamont Dixon was didn't do quite as well as Martina Lamont Dixon. How do you see that race, Vidal? And what do you think were the advantages that you and Ms. Mealer had?
Well, I think my advantages are primarily being here for 47 years in Houston and in the criminal justice system. I'm former federal prosecutor, former state bar chairman of all lawyers in Texas. On the public health side, I've been on the #1 hospital in Texas, Methodist. I've been on the board for 30 years now. And on the transportation side, which is the third bucket of infrastructure that counties are in charge of, I was a former port commissioner and also chairman of the transportation committee of the Greater Houston Partnership. So that experience has led to, I've been first seat in all three areas that the county runs.
Yeah, and I think that's critical. I mean, educational qualifications are good, but I think a lot of times, the practical experience is paramount, especially when you're asked to jump into a position running, helping chair the legislative side of the third largest county in America. It's important to have as Vidal says, I mean, healthcare is important because we do have one of the largest charity hospitals in the United States, both LBJ, Ben Taub, through Harris Health. And then, infrastructure is huge, given our tollway system and all the roads and bridges that we have to maintain. And so those are two critical components. And I think, as you mentioned, you have years of experience in those areas.
But the most important thing, Vidal, is like, you decide to run for this position and you've been working so hard from the moment that you announce, and now you're going to the runoff, and it's going to be, a lot of work this following 3 months before the runoff on May 24th. But tell us why it's important for people keep to participating. I was yesterday talking, my dad went to vote, and a couple of my friends went to vote, and I was very excited, and we had a beautiful day. That was another good ingredient on elections day, that a lot of people were going and vote, even though that normally, in the primaries, we don't have a lot of people motivated and excited to go to vote, but we saw a lot of polls. I mean, it was lines of people voting. But still, we didn't have the whole result. We still, till now, do not have the completely total of the result. But why we need a change, and why you decide to run for office, and why we need to do this following 3 months to support you for the runoff?
Well, you can look at what's going to happen on January 3rd, the very first day. My agenda has now shifted from number 2, firing the elections administrator, to number 1 now.
Right.
But number 2 is to change the bail bond reform that we have right now. We settled a case that didn't need settling, and we spent $100 million, and I'm going to cancel that. And the third item is get our $8 billion back from the state for the I-45 expansion. These are things that are going to happen on day 1. And we're going to eliminate the elections administrator and return it back to Stan Stannard, the county clerk, where the Texas Constitution puts all the responsibility for running elections. Only about 15 counties have elections administrators. We're the largest, and the other ones are because there's so little population, they needed to accumulate those services there in the rural areas. So those are some of the indicators. And in the crime wave, we have to address it right now, and that means putting the district attorney on a performance plan. She wants 60 more lawyers. We'll give her 15, and 100 days later, we'll measure the backlog reduction of the 108,000 criminal cases that are in the backline. So those are some of the most immediate things. Is let's take care of infrastructure. Let's not stray into social programs. We don't do early childhood education. We don't provide lawyers for immigration purposes. We don't spend $17 million on a tent hospital at NRG without ever seeing a single patient. So let's get back to the 3 things that counties are supposed to do, and that's what I'm going to emphasize in the runoff here. And we'll probably have somewhere between 150,000 and 200,000 Republican voters, but as Orlando knows, only about 25% to 30% vote in a runoff. So it's going to be getting the message out, getting people to vote, and getting them to return to the polls so that we can move on to the general election race against Lena Hidalgo.
This is your first foray into public office. What was your biggest surprise in your first campaign?
I guess my biggest surprise was the number of people that came out that I had met in these last 47 years around Houston. People that I met 20 and 30 years ago, old clients, people that were showing up to support me for this race, and also the basic thinking that this county judge and this gang of 3 have just totally crashed our county finances and our county programs into a wall, and that it needed to be fixed. It's worse when you really dive down into the numbers and you look at some of the corruption issues. It's worse than I thought.
I want to comment. I find this surprising because Obviously, I spent 12 years as county treasurer. And when the Conservatives were at the helm at the county, and were things perfect? No, but they were far better than they are now from a fiscal perspective. We were in the black. We didn't have any more tax anticipation notes. Our crime levels were, comparable to other cities. It was considered a safe county, a safe city, and then we were swept out. But what I find interesting, and then we'll ask Professor Wolf later, is that in 2018, the candidates that the Democrats put up hardly campaigned. Lena Hidalgo had no experience, no campaign funds.
27 years old.
Didn't raise any money, 27 years old, had hardly entered, had just entered the job market, probably clueless about the operations of Harris County. And the fellow that beat me had, raised no money, did no campaigning, and we were swept out of office. And what's interesting is that gentleman that beat me got swept out last night. I mean, these are folks that do no campaigning. They have no command of the issues. And it's just bizarre to me how that works. But I guess it's just a comment on
we won't have
Democrats.
the same dynamics that were there in 2018. You had the midterm for President Trump. You had a last time you could straight ticket vote. You had an unknown candidate like Beto O'Rourke out there that got everyone excited. Now everyone knows who he is. He's against guns. He's against the oil and gas industry. I guess if he was against Friday Night Football, everyone would dislike him. But I think it's the same dynamics, and we're going to have the wind at our back because the Biden White House is in total disarray. And you see what our reputation is around the world, and inflation and gas prices. So they're not going to be able to fix this year. And I think there's a reckoning that's coming on November 8th.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I hope you enjoyed your first foray. Now you're getting into round 2, so we want to wish you the very best. Let us know what we can do to continue to highlight your issues, and as Andrea likes to say, what is your call to action?
What is your call
for
to
everybody
action?
watching?
What we can do to help you?
What is it you want the folks watching you to do for you?
Pay attention, come vote on May 24th, and talk to everyone you know at this point. It's going to take a full team effort to win this, but we're also campaigning against Lena right now. So we got to win the runoff, and we got to get ready for her because she's got a 3-month head start on us right now.
Okay, and visit your website for sure. We have it. We're going to put it on the screen. Visit your website, and people can not only learn about you, learn about the issues, but also make a contribution to your campaign.
Thank you so much. And Orlando, I remember your first race. I was there. That's 30 years ago.
That was a long time ago. Well, thanks, Vidal. Good luck, and we'll see you on the campaign trail.
Thank you both, and thank you
Gracias,
for the endorsement from Texas Latinos Conservatives. It meant a lot.
You bet.
One of the candidates that made it for the runoff, and he is our dear friend Mano DeAyala, that he is the candidate for Texas State Representative District 133. He made it for the runoff, and we also at TLC, we are endorsing him and supporting him. So welcome, Mano, bienvenido. Y pues felicitaciones. Y queremos que nos cuentes, we want you to tell us about that experience and that campaign and going to the runoff, and what is the plan for now till May 24th.
He's like a rodeo bull rider. He came out of the chute pretty strong.
I know.
He had a good ride. So hey, welcome, Mano. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you guys for having me. Love the show. Love what you guys do. Looking forward to Tough Tejano Day, and that what a score having the governor come. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Well, and it'll be a real special if you show up. We hope you're there.
I'm planning on it. You were saying you're almost sold out, so we got to hurry.
Yes, you need to hurry. Well,
we'll be there.
Okay, good.
So, Andrea, what you were saying is yes. It's one of those things. You can plan service, but you can't plan a campaign, because in a race like this, the incumbent Jim Murphy announced he wasn't seeking re-election, and that started the ball rolling. So We did, just like you said, Orlando. We came out of the chute. We came out very strong and a ton of support. This district is this West Houston district where I have basically grown up and lived my whole life, and met my bride, my sweetheart, in high school, and we came back and raised our kids there. So this is all home for us, and the support that we had just as we came out was really overwhelming and humbling, and we just built on that and good policy and good experience and letting people get to know who I am and what I stand for. Really did well. So we're happy with getting in the runoff. And what's the saying? You don't ask someone who's just run a marathon, "Are you ready to run another marathon?" But that's what the runoff is another marathon. So,
Well, I got to tell you something. I was talking to a dear friend of mine that I invited to the Houston Rodeo the other night. You probably know him, Joseph McReynolds, the Spring Branch Republicans. And we were talking about, politics because we both enjoy that topic. And Joseph said that the runoff is like the calf scramble at the rodeo, right? You got to go find your calf, rope it, and drag it back into the middle of the arena to win. And that's exactly what a runoff is. You guys, it's going to be a very low turnout race. So you guys are going to have to walk the neighborhoods, work the phones, send out a lot of texts, and literally get your voters to the polls.
So the first, the primary election had, 80 plus races on the ballot. This one, you can count on one hand. So it's going to be a short ballot. Lines are going to be short. And if anyone's out there listening and in House District 133, no lines, easy in and out, get out and vote. But yeah, that's exactly what we have to do. Is we have to get our message out. We had 5 candidates in this race, and now we're down to 2. So there's a lot of folks who have already made their mind up with one candidate, and we need to reach out to them and let them know what our vision and our mission and our history and our backgrounds are, and hopefully win their vote. There's a lot of things about there's a lot of things about campaigning that I could do without. But there's a lot of campaigning that I like, and the one-on-one at the door with voters and listening to what matters to people and being able to share, what matters to me and why I think I can help in an issue here or there. That's awesome. I wish everyone could experience that. It's really a neat experience.
Yeah.
I was
hang
going
on,
to
let me, one quick
Okay.
question. I'll let you in. Have you spoken to the other candidates that didn't make the runoff, and how many of those have endorsed you, Mano?
Well, yes, I've spoken to all of them, and I've known them for a long time, and they're very familiar to me. There are going to be public endorsements, and I'm going to let those play out when they do. But yes, I have had support from the other candidates.
Good.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, you were talking about campaigning and 101 experience. And, we know that these days is different that when Orlando used to campaign for a city council member or for mayor, because these days we have not only the traditional media, but we have the social media. But still, the 101 is still one of I think, the one that make the most impact. So what is being the challenge for you, and how is it going to be for now till May for you campaigning? Because we know that it's already a challenge to take people to go and vote on the primaries, and it's a triple of challenge to take people to go and vote on the runoffs.
Right. So the old saying, and Orlando knows this very well, there's 2 ways to run, scared and hard, right? And so that's how you have to run. Every person you approach and talk to, number one, it means so much to them that you made the effort to go and talk to them about the things that matter to you and to hear what matters to them. So that's the first step, showing up. You got to show up. There were times just because of my workload in this campaign that I wasn't able to show up as much as I wanted to. I have none of those issues now. So we are showing up, and I've got a great team around me. I got great support. The overwhelming reach that I had after the primary of our supporters coming out. How can I help? Can I block walk? Can I do phone calls? Do you need money? Do you whatever it was? It was overwhelming. So we are positive that we're going to be gaining a lot of the support from the voters of the three candidates who didn't make it. Based on our understanding, we were their second choice. So things look very good. We just have to execute and take nothing for granted and go run and win our race.
Well, as one of our endorsed candidates, obviously we're very proud of you, and we're going to be back in there to help you. One of the things that I think we do well at TLC is the ground game. So we're looking forward to organizing some block walks with your team, and sort of buttressing your operations and reinforcing what you're doing, whether it's phone banking, block walking, doing some additional mail. So we look forward to getting you across the finish line. Talk to us a little bit about, now that you've had an opportunity to campaign in the House District 133, because every House district is a little different from a, geopolitical perspective. So what are the issues that you hear people talk about the most? What do you hear at the door? What are moms and dads, families, taxpayers telling you?
Really what you expect, crime. And again, in different parts of the district, it's more of the top of the list than in others. But, we haven't seen 10 years ago some of the issues we're seeing now. 10 years ago, we didn't know we had this risk or vulnerability of the grid. We didn't know we had the extent of a border security issue that we're having. We didn't know that that crime could get as bad as it's getting. We didn't know that there was actually going to be a large group of our society that doesn't support and respect our law enforcement. Those sorts of things and others. But, I think crime is at the top of the list. I think, we're still talking about making sure that as a country we have a secure border. Those are the issues. Again, people like to talk a lot about national issues, but I try to focus more on the ones that are unique to the state. So those are the ones that I'm mentioning.
One of the things that I'm always most proud of, and I always repeat this on the program, what you're seeing right now are either immigrants or children of immigrants. And I'm going to let Mano tell his story, but as everybody knows, I immigrated here from a communist country in 1962 from Havana, Cuba. Andrea's an immigrant from Colombia. And Mano, I think you have a similar story. So for those that haven't seen you before, why don't you share a little bit of your story?
Sure. So, my parents were born and raised and married in Cuba. My two older brothers were born there. Along came this evil bearded man, Fidel Castro. And my parents were fortunate enough, my two older brothers, to escape. Soon after arriving here, my dad volunteered with what's called at the time Brigade 2506 to fight in the Bay of Pigs invasion to retake their country. When that failed, it became pretty clear to my parents that this was not a temporary place, this was home. And probably like your folks, my folks came with virtually nothing except an education. And 5 sons. I grew up here in West Houston. This community embraced us, gave us a ton of opportunity. Our schools gave us a ton of opportunity. And we are living the American dream. And, thanks to, this country and this opportunity that there's no place on earth that you can have other than this country made that possible. And if you go down the list, we all have college degrees. 3 of us have postgraduate degrees, engineers, MBAs, lawyers, doctors. This country has been a blessing. And we grew up with that. We grew up knowing that this was a very special place. And so when we see this, what I call this small cancer growing in our country towards socialism and more communist ideology, and this overreach of the government, it's scary because, as you know, Orlando, we've seen this on steroids. We've seen and heard of indoctrination in schools. You think what's happening in our schools here It's a big problem here, but it's on steroids in Cuba, and so yeah, we can't let that stuff take root, and that's why growing up, that's always been an issue of mine. Why I've spent so many years working to, grow the conservative group in the Republican Party, help elect great candidates, conservative candidates, and promoting good conservative policies. And that's what you and I've been working on for a long, long time. And you've been in office a long time. This is my first real stab at it, and knock on wood, hopefully I can continue that work in this next chapter in my life. So
Good.
Yeah. So, Mano, tell us, crime is number one and education for sure. I believe that
yes,
many families are telling you about this because we're not seeing, as you said very well, it's a cancer that we're seeing in our school districts. So,
right.
tell us about the plan that you planning to address not only on the crime but also in education, and what other issues you are thinking about.
So let me answer that like a lawyer would, and that is long. The answer is, first of all, the state has to do what it's supposed to do. The services and the function the state's supposed to do, we need to do well and efficiently and be good stewards of tax dollars. So when we get to, K through 12 public education, we have, we have a lot of issues that are both financial and curriculum. We need to do better to provide curriculum that allows our students to succeed in the next chapters of their lives and their opportunity, whether it's technical education, whether it's military or 2-year schools or 4-year schools. All of it, we need to prepare our students for that. We also need to, especially in communities where we have poorly performing schools, we need to provide choice. And choice takes it has a lot of faces, and one of them is a charter approach. I've been working hard for the last couple of years with a charter school by the name of Heritage Classical Academy. And we've been trying to obtain our charter with the state of Texas. We've done it for 2 years now. The Texas Education Agency keeps approving us, and the state board has not approved us the last 2 years. This is our 3rd year to go through. But this is a specific charter school that's going to start out kindergarten through 8th grade, specifically in an area where all there are failing schools, and there are no choices. And geographically, the children in those areas and those families are geographically stuck in failing schools. And if we can provide solutions, options, competition, choices for those families, we ought to be able to do that. And, rising tide lifts all boats. The better the competition, the better the results from a competing school in your neighborhood, the better that public school is going to end up being. So I'm a big believer in school choice. I think I'm hearing that over and over when I knock on doors. And again, that's something that Texas has taken steps to do. We just need to keep going down that path and do it more successfully.
I couldn't agree more. One of the saddest things that government and one of the most tragic things that government can do is to tax us at the rate they do taxes, because everybody that is a property owner in the state of Texas receives a tax bill, and towards the end of the year that you got to pay by end of February. And if you'll look at that, the highest tax rate is your local school district. And in Houston,
Correct.
We're the 3rd largest school district in the United States, and sadly, Mano, very sadly, many of our schools are failing schools. They have failed at every measurable test that they put them through, and what's sad is that they're condemning those children to a poor life ahead of them because, as you say, without education, it's tough because this world is moving so quickly. Technology is so important. Not everybody, as you mentioned, needs a college degree, but there are opportunities. I, for example, went in the military and gained a lot of good skills. There are plenty of community colleges, and of course, then there are publicly funded universities. But if these kids aren't prepared to take advantage either of the military, and frankly, I was invited by the U.S. Army about 3 weeks ago to come down to City Hall in the city of Houston and talk about the Army's recruiting effort. And sadly, even the Army says that a huge swath of the Houston, Texas population is ineligible to meet the requirements of entry into the United States Armed Forces. That is an indictment of our public education system. It's not, I don't blame teachers, but the bureaucracy of Texas education has gotten out of control. And when you look at a school district like Houston, and you see the feds invading the administration building and handcuffing, trustees and executives and accuse them of stealing millions of dollars in the failing schools, I don't know why Houston taxpayers put up with that.
No, and I don't know, I think you know this, Orlando, but Governor Abbott appointed me a few years ago to the board of the Texas Board of Criminal Justice, which is our prison system. And with it is serving as a trustee of what's called the Wyndham School District. And the Wyndham School District is the school district for the prison system. And we have 65,000 participants in that school district. Twice double the size of SBISD, Spring Branch Independent School District, which is in my district, my house district. And I say that because if our families and if our schools do a better job of providing opportunity for our students and our children growing up, then I'm going to see fewer students at the Wyndham School District in the prison system. And that's kind of the evolution is, most crime involves character and lack of opportunity, and it's a combination of both. And I don't want to oversimplify it, but if you really look at it, it's character plus opportunity. As a society, and this is one of the things that we need to be doing well as a state and within our school districts, and that is provide the education that allows for opportunity. The opportunity that I benefited from, the opportunity my brothers benefited from, that you benefited from. So, that's all we can do at the state level and at the school ISD level. And the better job we do that, the fewer students I'm going to see at the Wyndham School District. So that's the idea there.
Yeah, because we're seeing, it's incredible. You're saying the lack of education and opportunities, and we're seeing more crime in the youth and like the teenagers. We're seeing a lot of crime with them. We're seeing taking this going out of control, and it seems to me that it's a combination between a lack of education and opportunities, not only at the school level and a school district, but also the parents. And I don't know, you guys were raised in a different time like I did too. And these days seems like you cannot tell your kids nothing. It's like, no discipline.
I think my mother would be arrested for all the time she pulled out the belt and whipped me.
My mom too. There will be a bunch of moms in jail.
Those Latin moms, they'll get the chancleta or the cinturón and they'll whip you.
Yeah, so I think it's tougher than that. It's deeper than that. The problem that we're seeing, because it's not only at the school level but also the parents.
Yeah, and Mano, it's sad that the tasks of legislatures, both at the state and federal level, are to fix problems in society, and it's really disappointing to see. For example, at the federal level, we've had an immigration problem in this country since 1986, when Ronald Reagan signed the Immigration Adjustment Act. 1986 was the last time the Congress decided to look at immigration. I don't get it. Why when we elect these guys and ladies, they don't go to Washington and fix our problems? Same thing in the legislature of Texas. And this is very disappointing to me, that we can actually see that urban education systems are in trouble. They're in trouble in Houston. I know they've had some difficulties in Dallas. rural and suburban school districts perform much, much better. So here's my appeal to you when you get elected. Roll up your sleeves because you come from an urban area and help fix the urban education problems. I think it's a sad commentary for our leadership because the majority of the kids in the school district are minority children. And I don't want to feel like our legislature is walking away from urban minority kids. They deserve as much opportunity as you and I had and everybody else in the state of Texas. So to me, the most important issue facing the state of Texas is educating those urban kids that are now being served by failing schools.
And you bring up a topic that we could spend hours talking about, but I'm going to try to distill it. You know, we as conservatives, we believe in local control. We like to have our decisions made locally as much as possible, and so we have a lot of deference there. But when the local decisions are failing our kids, and especially when those decisions infringe on our liberties and our freedoms, it is the state's responsibility to step in. The state has to come in and with its oversight perform the function it needs to perform. We don't want, and you and I agree on this, we don't want our schools being the parents of our children. The parents of our children are the parents of our children. The school does not raise our children. The parents raise their children. The school provides that piece of the puzzle that allows our kids to learn, understand their communities and their science and their opportunities, their civics, and all of those things, and give them the opportunity to go out and be productive citizens. And that's what we want in a very basic way from our school. And if they're not giving it, then we need to provide choices for those students where they have no choice.
And look, I get it, but in the meantime, and we're out of time here. We got to go to our next guest. But let me just say this: this is what's frustrating, and this is what I think you have a challenge. As you well know, an African American from Houston, who is in the Texas House of Representatives, Harold Dutton, authored a bill that said if schools fail X number of times, that the State Board of Education can move in, the Education Commissioner can come in, sort of like a bankruptcy, right? And take over this school to improve the quality of education. What did the citizens of Houston do from the school district? They find a bunch of folks to sue the state. Harold Dutton, an African-American, authored this bill that allows the State Board of Education, this is what we were arguing at our press conference.
Yeah, in 2018.
To take over the school. This is an urban legislator that gets it, and he's given the schools the opportunity to succeed, but if they don't, he says, we, the state, are going to step in. Now they've sued the state of Texas, and it's now making its way through the courts, and it'll take years, Mano. But in the meantime, it's the children and the taxpayers that are suffering because they're stuck, as you say, in those schools. So you've got a lot of work ahead of you. We're going to move on to our next guest. I want to tell you, Mano, it's a beautiful day. So as soon as you get off the air here, you better go block walk.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
And as I call it call to action, tell us how people can find you and how people can help you.
Yes. ManoForStateRep.com. Of course, contributions are always welcome, but there's places to volunteer. If you sign up, there are ways that you can help. We appreciate any help we can get. I've been blessed, and I hope to be a blessing to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mano.
Thank you.
All right. Well, there you have it. So remember, early voting is underway, and you just saw Vidal Martinez running for Harris County Judge and Mano DeAyala seeking the Republican nomination for House District 133 in West Houston. As I mentioned earlier, these folks have worked extremely hard the last 6, 7, 8 months. And they would have been with us on the program, but as you know, they're out block walking, they're out shaking hands, they're out doing everything that candidates have to do at the last moment. but please go out and vote. This will be a very low turnout rate, so every vote counts. Again, get out and vote. Vidal Martinez for Harris County Judge and Mano DeAyala for House District 133.
We're still on early voting, so go and vote. And I remind you that election day is May 24, Tuesday, May 24. So let's go and vote. Vamos a votar y vamos a llevar a nuestros amigos, a nuestros familiares. Vamos a llevar a por lo menos 2 personas más a que salgan a votar. Es súper importante. Votar es nuestra voz. Y yo siempre lo he dicho, yo desde que llegué a este país y me hice ciudadana americana, lo primero que hago es votar, porque votar es lo más importante que puedes darle a este país. Es un privilegio y un honor que tienes. No solamente el haber nacido acá, pero cuando no naces acá y finalmente te haces ciudadano americano, es un honor y un privilegio poder ejercer el voto. Así que vamos a votar todos, vamos a apoyar a nuestros candidatos Vidal Martínez y Mano DeAyala. Así que nos vemos pronto, nos vemos el próximo miércoles. Chao, chao.
Bye.